Okay, fine. So now we are going to start with the programming language basics. So first of all, in Python, we will look at the yes, Karim. Karim, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. I haven't downloaded Anaconda, so I'm using
Okay,
Google Colab.
no
That's okay,
problem.
right?
That's fine. Okay. So those who have not installed or downloaded Anaconda, they can continue with the Google Colab. And I don't know why you have not downloaded, but it is better if you will download it. Okay. Otherwise, you
Yeah,
can go
I'm
with the Google
using
Colab
my
also.
office laptop, so
Yeah,
yeah,
so that's the problem for a few people. So if you are using your office laptop and if it is not allowing me, then you can go for the
okay.
Google Colab. Okay, so now let's continue. So first of all, I'm starting with the discussion, few basic discussion about the operating system and the programming language, OS and programming language. That is the very kind of quick discussion we'll do on this. So we know one thing that okay, so what is OS? OS basically stands for the operating system, and we know one thing that operating system is the first application which gets loaded into the RAM, isn't it? It is the first application which gets loaded into the RAM. Now, why do we need operating system? So we need operating system, so or you can say the operating system OS is responsible to allocate the resources for the applications running on your system. Okay, now when I talk about the resources, so what all resources you have on your system? So the resources we have on our system are like memory, you can say RAM, then we have CPU, then we have input output devices, okay, etc. So there are a number of resources on our system which should be allocated to the different application, right? For example, you are running Anaconda, you are running this Jupyter Notebook, you are running this Google Chrome, you are running this Paint application, Terminal, Zoom, then Office, Word, presentation, notes, right? So there are a number of applications which are running on your system, and almost all application requires the resources, right? Like if it wants to run on the system, then it requires the resources. Okay, it requires the memory, it requires the CPU for the processing, it requires input and output devices to fetch the data and to present the data. So how these resources should be accessed by those applications? Because those all, there should be a protocol, right, which will decide that which application will access which resource, whether how much memory should be allocated, uh, whether all the resources will be accessing the CPU or all the cores at a time or one by one. So these all things will be decided by the OS, and OS itself is the kind of application which runs into your RAM. Okay, and we also know that any application runs on your RAM only, right? So RAM is one of the most important part of your computer science field. Okay, now you can say let's come to the programming language. Now what is this programming language? So programming language, basically I can say programming language is required. Why? So programming language is required to get our task done. Why I'm saying that it is required to get our task done? So if you have seen, like for example, let's say if you want to calculate your monthly grocery bill or monthly expenses, then you need a calculator. If you want to write a note or something, then you need a notepad. If you want to write some letter or something, you need a doc. You need to store the data, you need an Excel file. You need to draw something, then you need a pen. If you want to browse something, you need a browser. So these all are the applications, and these applications are nothing but they are developed using some programming language, right? So what do you do with these applications? You do your task, right? You do your task on your computer. So if you want to do your task, then you need to develop the application, and to develop that application we need programming language. So indirectly we can say that programming language is required to get our task done. So any kind of task you want to do on this system, you need a programming language. So you have to learn the programming language, right? Now So why we are learning Python then? So first of all, let's understand the type of languages. So there are mainly two types of languages. One is high level, or you can say low level, and one is high level programming language. Okay. Now, what is this low level programming language? So there are number of low level programming languages available into the market. For example, you can say machine code or machine language. Basically, you can say assembly language. These all are the low level programming language. High level programming languages: C, C++, Java, and Python. These all are the different high level programming languages. Okay, so you have different types of languages. In that, we have low level programming languages, we have high level programming languages. So the question is, when we have low level programming languages, why do we need high level programming language? What are the advantages and disadvantages of low level and high level programming languages? So in our initial days of computer or computer science, we coded into the low level programming languages. Okay, but nowadays the kind of complex applications we are having, it is not possible to code in low level programming languages. For example, if you talk about the machine code, so machine code is nothing but it is written in terms of 0 and 1. Okay, so any code which you want to write, that should be written into the binary format or the machine code in the low level language. Okay, and writing the code in low level programming language is not very convenient, because you can think of writing, let's say, how would you write? For example, let's say if you write any code, a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20. So let's look at the sample machine code for adding two numbers. This is the sample machine code for adding two numbers. Okay, this is the binary one. Okay, now obviously it is not understandable by us, correct? It is not understandable by us, but this code is completely understandable by the system understand only the numbers 0 and 1. 0 means there is no signal, 1 means there is a signal. So hardware devices are nothing but what? They are electronic devices and they will understand the signals, right? So that is what everything eventually is converted into the low level programming language, that is the machine code. This is the last, you can say, or end point of every high level programming language. You are writing the code in high level programming language, but your system doesn't able to understand it, so it has to convert it into the low level programming language, or it has to translate it to the low level programming language. So for translating the high level codes to the low level codes, we have the translators, and there are two types of translators: compiler and interpreter. We will be coming to that. But what we were discussing here, we were discussing about the low level programming language. So the problems with the low level programming languages are, so the problem with the low level programming languages are, they are not considered the best option to write the kind of code in today's world, right? So if you look at the kind of applications in today's world, right? So like Facebook or LinkedIn, or you can say Pinterest. So these kind of applications, you'll not be able to develop it into the low level programming languages. Okay, fine. Not only this, let's say if you have to maintain the code, or if you have to debug the code, then also it is not the kind of preferred one, right? So think of the whole Facebook code written in this language. Yes, it is possible, you can write that, but written in that, and you have to maintain that code. Okay, you would never be interested in doing that job, no matter what money someone pays, right? But you will not be interested in that. So it is not convenient to write into that. Yes, you can say it is understandable by the system, it's fine. So we have done one thing, is that we have designed the translator which can easily convert these high level codes or high level programming languages to the low level programming languages easily. Okay, now how you can identify that a particular language is low level programming languages? So see, there are few you can say mm, for example, let's say if any programming language is more closer towards the system, then it is low level programming languages. Okay, low level programming language. And if it is less closer towards the user, then it is means if user doesn't prefer it, okay, then you can say that is the low level programming languages. We will not prefer to code in the machine language and the assembly language in today's world. Okay, whereas when it comes to the high level programming languages, so it is one of the more demanding programming languages. Okay, and this is not the only way how you have to decide whether it is a low level. There is one more, the important one, or the you can say the technical one. So these codes are not portable, or you can say neither portable nor independent. Okay, means these codes are designed specifically for a specific hardware. It will be running on that hardware only. It cannot run on any other system or any other hardware. Okay, they are not portable, not platform independent. Okay, now to code in low level programming languages, you have to know the underlying structure of the hardware. You have to understand the hardware, and it will be designed only for that particular hardware. You cannot for coding in low level programming language on other hardware or other set of hardware, you have to learn that hardware again. So this is again time taking process. And last one is that coding in if you write the code in low level programming language, so these codes well, okay, and memory management, and as a coder you have to deal with the memory management and the security issues. Okay, so as a developer you have to deal with memory management and security issues. Okay, so these all are the you can say problems with the low level programming languages, and we would never prefer to code in the low level programming languages. Whereas when you come to the high level programming languages, in the high level programming languages, they are more closer towards the user. That is the first advantage, means users or coders prefer to code in the high level programming languages. Okay, these codes are portable. You can say either portable or platform independent, or few programming languages are both. Okay, you have to you may not have to know the underlying structure of the hardware. These codes does not these codes handle the security issues well. Okay, and as a developer you may have to deal you may have to or may not have to deal with the security issues and memory management. For example, let's say C. If you'll take the example of C, there you have to do the memory management explicitly, whereas it is not required in the Python. Okay, so you as a user are free with the memory management things. Okay, so it depends. Kind of different programming, high level programming languages follow the different architecture. So you have to it depends, like you can say in this terms Python is truly high level programming language. Okay. It is truly high level programming language because all these features fits true for the Python. Okay. Now, but one problem is here. We are able to code in high level programming language. Will my system be able to understand these high level codes? No. If you are writing anything, your system is not able to understand anything. Everything has to be translated to the low level programming language. Okay. Because as I said, that at the very low level, at the very granular level, if you'll go, then everything is a hardware, is an electronic device, and it understands only signals. And signals means nothing but 0 and 1. So everything has to be converted into 0 and 1. So if it is zeros and ones, then everything has to be converted into that machine language. So for translation, we have the two types of translators. Okay, one is compiler and the other one is interpreter. Okay, now this compiler is compiles the whole code at once, or you can say translates the whole code at once from high level to low level. Okay, whereas interpreter translates the code line by line from high level to low level. Okay, fine. This is the ways how compiler works, and this is the way how translator works. So basically, translator, what it does, translator will translate the code.
I heard many times the C also is used for the language or machine learning, sorry. And why is that if it's a low-level programming language? Why is that preferable language?
Your question is why Python is preferred language for the machine learning, why not C, right?
Yes, yes. Also, I heard many times that C also is preferred for the machine learning as well. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, C is not preferred, but you can say you can do the machine learning stuff in C. Okay. It depends on the let's say I have like two people are there. One is from technical background and knows C. One is from non-technical background, don't know any programming language. If you will ask them to do the machine learning stuff or do the data analysis, the person who is from C background, he would prefer to go into C. Why? Because he knows C. Okay, so he can do all this stuff into the C, whatever a data scientist can do. Whereas a person who is from non-programming background, he will be preferring to go into the Python. Why? Because learning C is an uphill task for him, right? So it's like he would prefer to go with the Python because Python is one of the simplest language, and syntaxes are easy, simple to learn. You have to focus on the logic, not more on the syntactical things and all in the Python. So that's basically Python. You can say it makes your life easy. And not only this, there are number of packages available in Python for this data analysis. Whereas when you do it in C, you have to write those codes explicitly. Okay, so a person who is comfortable in C, he will be preferring to write the code in C. That's fine for him, but not for a person who is from non-programming background. And if you ask him to do these things in the C, it's not the preferred one. Probably he would go with the Python.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it's only because of if you know something, you would prefer to do that. If you don't know, then you will go for the easiest one, isn't it? So you are going for the Python. Python, one of the easiest language ever we have. So be that we have came up with the Java, also we have came up with C, C++, C Sharp, and all hell, good number of programming languages. But we prefer Python because learning Python is quite easy. Okay, so we were talking about the translators. Now those translators are of two types, as we have discussed. One is compiler and one is interpreter. Okay, in the compiler takes the or translates the whole ones from high level to low level. Okay, whereas interpreter translates the code line by line. From high level to low level. Okay, fine. So this is the difference between compiler and interpreter, and based on this there are two types of languages also. So the languages which follow which has the compiler for the translator, they are called the compiled languages, whereas the languages which use the interpreter for the translation, they are called the interpreted language. Okay, interpreted language. There are another type of languages which uses both compilation and interpretation both for the translation. Okay, so you can say that is the third type of language which uses both compiler and interpreter to translate the code. Okay, now how it is done. So now which all languages we have? So for example, in the compiled languages we have C, in the interpreted languages we have Java, and in the you can
Java
say
is not an interpreter language.
it is interpreted.
Okay.
It is also interpreted. Actually, you have the compilation.
Yeah. Then it will get
I will tell you.
bytecode.
JVM is there, right?
Correct.
So it is not interpreting line by line, but we have the JIT compiler. Okay, so right now the kind of JVM you are using, you cannot keep this Java into the you can say in the interpreter stage. That is also not the compiled one. It will be coming into this. Okay, now when it comes to the interpreted language, Python initially was developed to be interpreted language, but now also you cannot keep this Python into the interpreted language. It will be coming into this third part. The interpreted languages are like almost all these scripting languages, like Perl, you can say, or shell scripting. Okay, or you can say JavaScript. Okay, almost all the scripting languages, you can say they are the interpreted language. Okay, initially Java and Python were the interpreted language, but now we have moved them to this this third type where we use compiler and interpreter both. In Java we don't use interpreter in fact, but in Python still we use the interpreter to interpret the code. Okay, somewhere in some books or in some sources you will find that initially Java was the interpreted language. Okay, anything else guys? One minute.
So Python will be first compiled. Is that correct?
Then it will be interpreted.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so okay, one more thing. Nowadays, the kind of languages or the compiler or interpreter we are having, so you cannot say C which you are using currently on your system, if anyone is using, it is completely compiled. It may come inside this, okay, in the third part or in the third kind of language, okay, where it is using compiler and interpreter both. See, this is just a stage which you can add into a programming language or you can remove it from a programming language. Okay, so if you, let's say, but at least one translator should be there to translate the code from the high level to the low level. What used to happen in C, like we have the C source code. Okay, then we used to compile this C source code, and after compilation we used to create the .exe file, and this .exe file we used to say that it is equivalent to the machine code, and it used to generate the output when you will run that .exe file on our system. Okay, now what used to happen here, that if you will compile it, this .exe file, you have to run this file every time to get the output. Now when it is running, you will not be able to interpret the code, or you will not be able to communicate with this application when it is running. So now we thought of how we can communicate with the application when it is running. So we came up with this shell scripting. Okay, shell scripting was there already. It was developed around 1968. C came later, but we integrated this shell scripting with the C. Now what we did, that when this C code is running, using shell scripting we can communicate with the C application. Okay, now there was a gap, and the person called, who was the founder, means who developed this, what was the name? Guido van Rossum. Yes. So this person, he found there is a gap between C and shell scripting. So to communicate with the C application, you need to integrate shell scripting with the C source code or C file, right? So he came up with Python now. Now Python has the feature of C also and shell scripting also. Okay. Now what does it mean? So you compile this source code of Python and you can interpret it also. So when the Python code is running, you can interpret the Python code. Okay, fine. Nowadays we use dev C++, this application, right, for writing the C code. This uses compiler and interpreter both. Because when you will write the code in dev C++, here you can compile the code as well as you can interact with your application also, C application also. Okay, so almost all the languages nowadays, they are coming into this third category where you have the compiler and interpreter both integrated with them. Now why it is required? See, if you will look at the C, so how the C code was executed. So C was initially portable but not platform independent. Okay, it was not platform independent. Now what is portable? So when you talk about portability talks about if source code can be moved from one platform to another. That is called the portable. And when we talk about the platform independent, so platform independent says that if you can move the bytecode from one platform to another. Can be moved from one platform to another, then that particular language is called the platform independent. In case of C, bytecode, or you can say the bytecode or .exe file can be moved from one platform to another, which was not possible into the C, right? Let's say if you have .exe file and I want to use it, you have developed it on Windows platform, I have Mac. Can I able to run that .exe file on the Mac? No. You have seen that when you go to download different software, for Windows you'll be finding the different .exe file, for Mac you'll be finding the different .exe file. Have you ever tried to download the Mac one on Windows and Windows one on Mac? You'll not be able to run that. That is the same problem, platform independent. They are not platform independent. Their .exe file or bytecode cannot run on different platforms. This problem was solved in the Python, or you can say the languages which are following this third category. Okay, in this third category, what happens? First of all, you will be having the source code. Okay, this source code you can compile, which will then converted to the bytecode, or we say portable code or object code, which will further be interpreted or again will be compiled by some JIT compiler or something, and then it will create the machine code and finally we'll get the output. This is the whole stage. Now in this, when you are compiling this source code, we are generating this bytecode. This bytecode is platform independent. You can move this from one platform to another. This is the case of Python. Okay, fine. So the bytecode which you are generating, you can move from one platform to another. This is what it makes the platform independent and portable. You can move the source code of Python and C also, so they both are portable. C is also portable, Python is also portable. Which language is not portable? Low level programming languages are not portable. Source code written in low level programming languages will not be able to move from one platform to another. Clear? Fine. Okay, everyone, any question?
No, Abhishek.
Okay. Okay, so now what we have seen that we have the this Python, which is portable and platform independent both, right? So coding in let's say if you will develop any code, so if you can give this bytecode to the user, he will be able to run whether he is on same platform or different platform. And even if you have the peer developer, so you can share this source code also to your colleagues. They can start working along with you on the same project. Okay, so this is the advantage we have in high level programming, where we have combined interpreter both. It may have only compiler also, it may have only interpreter also, but this Python has both compiler interpreter, which generates the bytecode, and this bytecode is movable from one system to another. Now the we'll move to the features of the Python. So the first feature of the Python is syntax is simple and easy to learn. Okay, for example, let's say if you'll write a sample Java code to add two numbers, so the sample code is I think this public class add and then public static void main. You'll be writing string array args. Next, okay, this is the sample Java code to add two numbers. Okay, now sample Python code to add two numbers. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, C is equal to A plus B, and print C. Okay, this is a sample Python code to add two numbers. Now you can look at the syntax. So syntax is the different keywords and everything which you are using. If you will miss anything, let's say here I have missed the semicolon, this will give me the error. Okay, so you cannot miss a single thing out of this. Even I think there is some something should be capital here. I think it should be capital or something like that. So you cannot miss this. These all are the syntaxes of the Java code. Okay, you cannot miss that. If you will do that, it will give you the error. Okay, so and you can understand that if you look at this Python code, you will compare this Python code with the Java code. Same thing we have done here, and you will find that how you can say don't don't take it otherwise. Those who are coming from Java, I am not demeaning Java. It's a very good language, but yes, there is it's easy. If you'll compare it with Python, so Python is far better or far easy than the Java code. So now let's say if a person is coming from non-programming background, and if I will give this code, probably he will be asking a lot of questions right here. Why we are writing public, then class, then add, then what is this public static void main? Why we are writing this? Why we are giving this semicolon? Why we are writing this int function to print? Why we are just not writing this print like this. Why we are writing system.out.println? So basically you have to tell him that it is this syntax which you have to use. Okay, or probably you need to explain it, right? So these syntaxes are quite you can say complex in the other programming languages when it compares to the Python. So in Python you can see that you just have to add two numbers, take those two numbers into two variables, add it, save it to another variable, and print the result. Even you can reduce this line to a single line, a comma b is equal to 10 comma 20. Okay, this way also you can do that. Fine. So these are the different even you can compare the C code also. C code also will take around same amount of line. So coding, you can say syntaxes are simple, and Python is easy to learn. So if you will compare the learning curve of you can say Python with the any other programming languages, then what you will find that learning curve is far steeper compared to any other programming languages. Okay. I myself is not from programming background. I am from electronics and communication. So I started learning Java in my college days, and I remember that I left it around 3 or 4 times. After learning a few topics, I left it again. After learning few topics, I left it, and then after 3 or 4 attempts, I completed this Java, and that was not up to the up to the level where I can completely work standalone into the industry, or I can complete the project standalone into the Java. So, and also there are a lot of packages which you have to learn along with this along with this Java. Object-oriented programming concept itself is a huge topic in Java, where will be looking at in the Python. Hardly will take around 5 or 6 classes to complete this object-oriented feature or programming in Python. Okay, so there are a lot of differences between Java, Python, C, and then C++ or C sharp. There are a lot of differences syntax wise, and then when it comes to learning, I feel that Python is far better than any other programming language. So if anyone who is coming from non-programming background wants to move into the data science, you can do the coding in Java, you can do the coding in C, but I would recommend you to go with the Python. Why? Because learning Java itself will be a big headache for you. So probably if you learn Java, that is a good achievement for you. Then you can think of data science.
I think Abhishek Yashika this side. I think Python is slow than C++ and other languages. Isn't it?
Yeah, yes, performance wise it is slow, but the kind of systems we are having, right, the performance is not a big issue for any application nowadays. We have i5, i7, and even we have the supercomputers for the foreign calculation. So that performance is not a big issue for us.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Rajdeep here. I see
Yes, Rajat.
you have not defined types in the Python code. It is not required, or
What I have not defined?
the data type like int a, you have not defined it in
Yes,
Python.
it is not required. Why? Because that is the feature of the Python, that Python is dynamically typed programming language.
What do you mean by dynamically typed?
Yeah, so languages like Java or C, they are the statically typed programming languages. Python is the dynamically typed programming language. Dynamically typed means it is a runtime programming language. So at runtime, the type checking and the memory allocation will be done, not at the compile time. In the statically typed programming language, this done at compile time. Okay, so this is in the static dynamically typed programming languages. The type check-in and memory allocation is done at runtime. Okay, fine. For example, that's the reason Java code is compiled first and then you execute. That's the reason first you compile the C source code and then you execute. Whereas in the Python, you directly execute. Okay, any Python code you can directly execute. Okay.
Okay, so I have one more question here. So is it a good thing, very good thing, or it has some cons also? This dynamic.
It has a lot of cons, dynamically typing, and it has the security issues. And developers of Python are thinking of removing this feature from the upcoming versions of Python.
Why is that so?
There are a lot of security issues coming with it. Okay, so for example, let's say you not specified the data type here while defining this, right? So you can change this value anytime, right? And you can keep, like, you can assign any object or string or anything. Now later on, let's say if you have a operation where you were thinking, like, you have written the code, okay, here, thinking that user will provide two numbers, okay, but now let's say if user will provide a string value, then this code will give you the error. Technically, logically, this code was correct, but because of the user input was given wrong, this code is not working fine. Okay, so there are a lot of errors or a lot of problems are faced due to this. So as of now, it's fine, but I have heard that the developers of Python, they are thinking of removing this this feature from Python.
Okay.
Abhishek,
Yes.
Abhishek Darshana here. As you told earlier that Python is compiled as a interpreted language. So in that case, when is the compilation done?
Compilation is done before the interpretation. I've written it here. Source code is first compiled, which creates the bytecode, and then it is interpreted to machine code.
Okay, so that is done internally. So we are executing it. So the compilation is done internally. We don't
Yes,
tell
it
it
is.
explicitly.
No. You don't have to do it explicitly.
Okay.
So it starts when you hit save. The
Sorry?
compilation process. When will it start?
When you click on run, internally it compiles, it generates the bytecode and interpret it.
Okay.
Okay. You don't have to do it explicitly. Okay, everyone, anything else?
How it works in C and other languages then?
So how?
How it works in other languages then?
Like in
Taking it is compiled at the time of.
No. In C, we explicitly compile the source code. It generates the .exe file. We execute that .exe file.
Yes.
Okay. In Java, we first compile it explicitly to create the Java C file, and then we execute that Java C file to get the output.
Yeah, Java C is a command, and when you use that command, it will give a .class file, which is basically a bytecode. Initially,
object code.
.java. We give Java C command. It will give .class file.
Correct. .class file, that is the bytecode or the compiled code, you can say. Then you execute it to get the output. Clear? So like in those programming languages, you have to compile it explicitly, whereas in the Python, you are directly running the code, and internally this compilation will be done.
Okay. Fine. Got it.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Okay. So now let's continue. So we were discussing about the dynamically typed programming language, where Python is the dynamically typed, and you don't have to mention the type of the variables. Rather, at runtime, it will check what is the data you are associating with the variable. Based on that data, it will decide the data type. For example, let's say after this, if you want to check the type, data type associated with a variable, then there is a function called a type in Python, which gives you the data type associated with the variable. So you can check the type of A and the type of B. Okay, now instead of writing this, let me write here 20.30. So this will be a integer value and a float value. Okay, fine. So remember, type is a function which gives you the type associated with a variable. Find data type associated with the variable. Clear? Now
I
in
have a question.
Python, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
actually, for
go ahead.
example, B is
Yeah.
assigned with 20.30. So
Hmm.
can I later assign it to 20
Yes, yes,
or 30?
yes, yes,
At that
yes,
time, it
yes.
will
You
become.
can you can always change the value associated with a variable. For example, for A you can make 100, or you can make 100.200, and for B you can make as 20. Okay, now if you will check the type of A and B, so it will be changed now. Okay, so previously it was coming as int and float, now it is coming as float and int. So this is the feature you have of the dynamically typed programming language, that see, it is interpreted language, right? So at while interpreting, first it has executed this line. So A has become integer type, B has become float type. Okay, now in this line, A has become float type. Like after executing this line number 12, it came to line number 13, it gave you the output. Now it came to line number 14. So A became the float type, and here B became the integer type. So now when you are executing it, A will be becoming float type, and B will be becoming integer type. Okay.
Okay, actually, I think this is a dangerous feature. I mean,
Uh,
we develop financial calculations with this Python.
sorry. Sorry.
When things are related to like financials, for
Mhm.
example, your order quote or banking related interest rates.
Mhm, mhm.
For those things, like will Python be used for calculating
Yeah,
such
yeah. Python is used for developing
calculate?
any kind of application.
Mm.
The only thing is you have to be careful while writing the code. Okay.
Okay, it's tough to test basically.
Yes.
I sense a lot of danger basically.
Yes. So yeah, if you are, I hope you are from Java, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So yes. So if anyone is coming from other programming background, actually it is Python is bit dangerous in these terms. That's what they are thinking of. Changing this dynamically typed to the statically typed. Anyway, let's see when it happens or whether it happens or not. So that's not our issue. Yes, Lakshmi.
So when we are printing like a type of A and type of B, it is printing as class int and class float, right? So
Mm-hmm,
does it
mm-hmm.
mean every value in Python is an object? I mean, are there
Exactly. Yes, 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 yes.
so there
So
is no
in
value
Python,
type? Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
So there is no separate set of value types and reference types in Python?
No, there is no such thing. So in Python, we use the references to refer to the object, but every value, whatever value you use in Python or whatever data you use in Python, that in fact is an object.
Okay. Isn't it a overhead at runtime?
It is not, because that's what the feature of Python.
Okay.
Okay, you may say that it may take, like for example, that's the reason Python is, you say Python is not memory efficient, or this is one problem with the Python is not performance wise, it's by a bit slow. So there are a number of reasons behind that. For example, let's say if you'll talk about integer value 10. Okay, so let's say if you're writing A is equal to 10, so A is not storing only the value 10, it is storing a number of information. For example, there is a reference count. Okay, how many times this 10 has been referred here. Then there'll be a size. Then there'll be a then there'll be value, okay, or data, you can say. So the number of information are stored along with 10. So that's the reason when you will try to find the memory taken by a integer value in Python import sys. So this 10 in C or Java, it will take hardly 8 byte of memory. Okay, if you will declare it as a short. Okay, but in Python, it will minimum amount required for the smallest value in Python is 24 byte, I think. This dot get size of A. That is 28 byte of memory. Okay, and that is sorry,
byte or bits? It must be bits.
Byte, 28 bytes.
Okay, because in Java, like short int takes 8 bits.
No, it is 8 byte of memory. No, short.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I'll check. Yeah.
Not wrong, but please check. I think it is int 8 is 8 byte of memory. 32 is 32 byte of memory. I think so. I don't know exactly. Let me check 1 minute. Probably I might be wrong.
Abhishek.
It is 8 byte, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that is basically it takes the information in terms of bytes. Okay. So that is it takes 28 byte of memory. Okay. Now this same 10 in the Java will be taking, like, if you can declare it as a short value, right? So it will take 8 byte of memory, whereas in Python it takes 28 byte of memory. This is the minimum amount is required. Even a none value also in Python takes 16 bytes of memory. If you will check, the none is no value, right? None is no value. If you will check the size of none, it takes 16 bytes of memory. Okay. So this is why, because we are not storing only the data with it, but since it is the object, so apart from the data, we are storing some other information that is defined in the int class or none class or float class. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Java takes for short 2 bytes basically. I just checked. 2 bytes is like not 8 bytes. 2 bytes is 16 bits.
Okay. Anyway, so whatever, like basically it takes less than 28 bytes of memory. Here it is taking 28 bytes of memory, as it is storing a number of information along with the data. Okay.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Okay.
But Abhishek,
So,
we have made this dynamically independent, seeking that we'll be storing less, we'll be taking less memory, right? But this is taking more memory.
No. We never thought of this way, that it will be taking less memory. So we have to decide it as a or we have to make it as a dynamically typed. It's never like that. Dynamically typed was made initially. Why? Because actually this feature of dynamically typing is coming from ABC language. So this person, Guido van Rossum, he was working in some distributed operating system, some project, and he was working on ABC language. ABC language was having these features of dynamic typing and then this indentation which we have in Python. So a lot of features in Python are coming from here. Like I told you that this Python was developed to bridge the gap between C and Python, C and shell scripting. So it was developed to bridge the gap between this, but lot of feature has been taken from ABC. Like you have the exception handling concept or exception handling feature in ABC language, but you don't have in C. So that feature was taken into Python from ABC. This indentation concept to create the block was taken from ABC. Okay, so there are a lot of features which were taken from ABC, or you can say he took from ABC and included into the Python. Okay, it was never thought of like this dynamically typed feature will take less memory. It will always take the more memory. Why? Because as I said, it doesn't store only the data, it stores some other information also along with the data.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? Any other question?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, sir, I'm Jasmeet. I wanted to ask, I had a query that when I execute a program and press Control Enter or Shift Enter, they both give the output. So is there any difference in them?
No. Both are shortcut command to execute the code. Shift Enter, yes, there is a difference. You can check that difference here. Yes.
Shift Enter creates a row
Actually, there is a
beneath
difference.
that.
So for example, let's say, I will tell you what is the difference. Correct. So Shift Enter execute the code and create one cell after this. Okay. For example, let's say these cells are deleted, right? If I will press Control Enter, it is just executing the code. Okay. Where is that? This is here. So it is just executing the code, it is not creating the cell. Whereas if you are pressing shift enter, then it is executing the code and it is creating this cell. Okay, this is the difference. But both are used to execute the cell. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So now.
Abhishek, I have a question. So you said that the developers are thinking of removing the variable assignment, right? Where you need to
dynamic
dynamic writing. So where you need to assign, I mean, might be that you need to assign the variable type, the data type probably. So how useful is that? I mean, taking this course further for us, especially from a non-programming background, when we are taking up this course, and if there are any changes in the future, in the near future. So how do we adapt to it?
By the time these changes will be made, you will be expert in Python. Clearly, you may not be in the industry. You will be out of the industry, like you will be in your retiring stage. Okay, so don't worry about that, because it is not a task of 1 or 2 years. It will take more than 10 or 20 years. Okay, so leave it. Or even you will not be, if you'll be in the industry, then you will not be working on the Python. You will be at some managerial level and all. So don't worry about it. And even if it is removed, see, removing these kind of features is not just you can say a one-day task.
Version updates actually in programming languages keep on happening. As of now, Java is like it's Java 12. So many changes have happened in the syntax. So after 15 years of experience, like me, I'm still learning. If I share screen, so
but major changes doesn't happen, right? So it's not like upside down. So completely everything will be changed, right? So see, you are still learning it, but the thing is, you are not learning everything from the scratch, right?
Yeah, of course, that's correct.
So that will be there. So even if you are learning Python today, some changes will be there. By that time, you will understand that what changes have been done and how it is going to affect me. Because these changes are not that much easy. This dynamic typing you can think of, it is not that much easy. Why? Because there are n number of applications which are running on Python and they are following this dynamically feature. So recently, what is the problem we are facing? There is like JP Morgans are hiring. There is a huge requirement for Python C developers in JP Morgan. And what exactly they want is, so they have the code written in Python 2. Now the support for Python 2 is over. And there are a lot of features available in Python 2, not there in Python C. So they need the developers who can just translate the code from Python 2 to Python C. Even we have the tool which can translate the code from Python 2 to Python 3, but still there are few places where this translation doesn't go well in hand to hand, right? So we need the code developers who can do this translation and can manage it. Okay. So this kind of problems keep on arising if we will make this kind of major changes every now and then in any programming language. Or there may be one thing they might say that those who are working in old version of Python, they will keep on working. For new guys, they will introduce this new feature and all. So that way it will come. Let's see. That's not to worry about that. Let's see when it happens, and when it happens, you will come to know about it. Don't worry how to handle that. Okay, so the next feature we have is Python is portable and platform independent. We have discussed this point already. That Python is portable. You can move the source code from one platform to another, as well as you can move the bytecode from one platform to another. It means in Python, this bytecode which is generated, which is an intermediate code, you can give it to any user using any platform. If you have generated it on Windows, you can give it to Mac, Linux, any other user. He will be able to execute this code. Okay, so this is the one feature. Next, we have Python is compiled and interpolated. separated both. We have also discussed this point. Next, we have Python is extensible and embedded. Okay, so what is this extensible and embedded? So basically, if you are, let's say, if you are developing any application in Python, and if you feel that the functionality which you are going to write in Python is already available in some other programming languages, you can import those functionality into Python. That is called extensible feature. So you can say here, using the code from other programming languages to Python, that is the extensible feature. And embedded feature says that using the code from Python to other programming languages. Okay, that is the embedded feature. Okay. Fine. So we have Python is extensible. For example, NumPy is written in C. We are using it in Python, right? Similarly, we have the embedded feature. We can use the Python code in other programming languages also. So there are module which you have to write while writing the C code. If you want to import the Python code, you have to import that module. Okay, or you have to import that particular package. Okay. Now, next feature we have for the Python is Python comes with batteries included. That is the official term for the modules and packages which comes built in Python. Okay, so like there is a math module, sys module, OS module. These all are the built-in modules which comes by default when you install Python. And apart from that, Python also has the external packages like NumPy, Panda, Matplotlib, Seaborn, Scikit-learn, SciPy. These all are the external packages for different applications. For like Django, we have for web application. These all are the one which I have discussed earlier are for the data analysis and all. We have the machine learning packages. We have the AI packages separately. If you want to work on the mobile application, we have the packages for that. So like for every task which you want to do along with Python, we have the packages and modules available for that. You just import it and you can start using it. Okay, so basically it helps you from writing the code from scratch. Let's say if you have to develop the website, so this Django package is available. You can import the Django packages, and there are a lot of boilerplate kind of code is provided to you, and you can start developing the code, which reduces the time taken in developing a website. Okay, along with the full featured website facilities. Okay,
Abhishek,
fine.
if you don't mind, the above point, don't you think it's reversed? Embedded is something where we bring in C or the other language code to Python code. Is it not that case?
Python will be embedded into the using the code for Python, code of Python to other programming language. Let me check.
Because in special classes you have mentioned it this way, so.
No, it is the same. So probably I have made the mistake there then.
Okay.
So extensible
So
is
the one
this
which you have mentioned here
using
is
the code
correct.
from other. Yes, this one is correct. Yeah. So
Thank
probably check with my notes also. There also I have mentioned it extensible and embedded. So I think I mentioned the same thing there. Anyway, somewhere I have made the mistake. Anyway, this one is correct. Okay. Now what is the next point. Okay, so now we have discussed the features of the Python. Let's see where all we can use the Python. So Python is accepted across the industry. So the industry where we are using the Python, so let's say if you want to develop, or you can say the application. So if you want to develop the web application, you can use Python. There are packages like Django and Flask for developing the web application. If you want to develop the desktop application, you can use Python. If you want to use the database application, you may use Python. Okay. Apart from that, if you want to do data analytics, Python is useful in that. Okay. If you want to use it in the machine learning or AI, so you can use Python in that. You want to work on the IoT application, you can use Python in that. Okay. You want to work in the embedded side, so we have the Python for that also. So like any field you talk about, everywhere Python is accepted, and this is the reason why Python is one of the most demanding language of the 20th century. Okay. And see, with this feature and combined with this feature, simple and easy to learn, this is the reason someone asked me in the beginning why Python is preferred. So combining this feature and this first feature, we can say this is the reason why Python is more demanding in the current market scenario. Why? Because as I said, think of a person who is coming from non-programming background and wants to work in the analytics field, because he has a good domain knowledge of retail, or you can say marketing or finances. But since he is not from technical background, he cannot do the coding. So we cannot use his talent in the different field, or the experience or the exposure he has got in the different fields. But if he can understand, if he can learn a kind of programming languages which will be easy for the data analytics purpose, we can make better use of his experiences and exposure to that field, right? So this is the reason why Python is preferred above any other language. Whereas if he or she will go and learn C or Java, I don't think it will be easy task for that particular person. Okay. Now, so this is it about the Python features. Now I'm going to start with the Python components. Okay. Now let's see what all Python components we have. But now these all things will be hands-on, so you guys also can practice it. So we have the literals first. Now there are number of there are different types of literals. We have numerical literals. Okay. Now these numerical literals are nothing but the constant values. Okay. So any value which you use in Python, that is the literal. For example, a is equal to 10. It is a integer literal. If you want to check the type of a, you can check it using the type function. It will give you int, and then you can print the value also by passing a in the print function. So it is printing 10. Okay. Remember, when you use multiple values inside the print function separated by comma, the output you will get separated by the space. Okay, in the same line. Fine. Now let's say if you will be writing a is equal to 10.20, so it is a float letter, so you can get the type of let me write here b, comma b. So this is the float literal, and the value is 10.20. Now we may write c is equal to a complex value, any number which in the form of a plus bj, where a is the real part, b is the imaginary part, and a and b can be either integer or float, anything. So that is called the complex number. If you will check the type of c, that will be coming as complex type, and the value of c is 10 plus 20j. Okay. Now if you'll observe here, so all the outputs are coming separated by a space. Now similarly, we can have a none type. So you may write here none, and if you check print type of d, and if you print d, then it will be coming as none, and the type is none type. Okay. Next we have e is equal to, let's say, a string type. We may have a string type here, and if you will print type of e, comma e, so it is a string object. Now if you see, everywhere we are getting class. So what does it mean? One more inference you can make here from here is that all the data which you are using in Python is an object in Python. Okay, you are creating an object here. Okay, now let's say if you will write f is equal to true, so this is going to be the Boolean literal. So you will check the type of f comma f, and this will be Boolean type. Clear? Fine, everyone. So these all are the different literals, numerical literals and float literals, string literals we have. Apart from that, there are in the numerical literals there are other literals also. For example, here we write g is equal to a number into the binary format. So any value which is preceded by 0b in the beginning and has only 1010 as the number, then that is the binary representation of a number. So you may write the type of z that will give you the integer type, because only integer value can be represented in binary, octal or hexadecimal. It will be giving you the corresponding value of the you can say you can get the corresponding value of this binary equivalent. Okay, similarly you may write h is equal to one octal value 07654. Now if you will print type of h comma h, now if you will execute it, you will get this one also is int, and the equivalent decimal value of 7654, which is an octal value, is decimal equivalent is 4012. Okay, now next you have the hexadecimal representation. You may write 0xfc fc98. Now if you will print type of I comma I, then this will be giving you this output. So the decimal equivalent of fc98 is 64,664, which is the decimal equivalent of 0xfc98, which is the hexadecimal representation of 64,664. Okay, so these all are the different numerical literals we have. These all are the numerical literals. These all are the numerical literals. Apart from this, we have these all are the you can say non-literal. We have string literal and we have Boolean literal. Clear, everyone? Fine.
Yeah, Abhishek.
Okay.
Yes.
Next we have string. So this string can be written in a number of ways. For example, what is a string? So string is basically any value written inside single quotation, double quotation, or triple quotation made up of single quotation, or triple quotation made up of double quotation is a string type. Okay, now for example, let's say this is a string type. Let me comment all this. So this is a string type. Okay, this is kept in the single quotation. You can use the double quotation also here. Okay, execute this. So you have E, F, G. E is also a string type, F is also a string type, G is also a string type. Okay, now if you see, we are using single quotation, double quotation, and triple quotation made up of double quote. You can make it of single quote also, that's not a issue. So you can use anything, everything will be a string type. Now the question is, why do we have different quotation types here in Python? So every quotation has their own use. For example, let's say if you are writing, you have a string E is equal to, this is Python class. Okay, now what do you want is, you want this apostrophe s to be taken as a character. You don't want this to be the end of this string, whereas PVM understand this quotation as the end of this string. Why? Because your string is starting with here single quotation, so end of this string will be next single quotation will be the end of string. So here it is considering it as the end of this thing, which is not the case. So if you try to execute this code, it will give you the error. So when you have a single quotation as the character in your string, then you cannot keep that string into the single quotation. You have to keep this string now into the double quotation. Okay, now it will be considered as a character. Similarly, if you have the double quotation into your string as the character, for example, here we have the double quotation. So you cannot keep your string into the double quotation. Here you are getting the same error, right? So you cannot keep it into the double quotation. You have to keep it into the, you can keep it into the single quotation. Okay.
Abhishek, what is the shortcut for that single quotes and double quotes that you've just selected?
You just select the thing and then press the quotation. That's it. Whatever quotation you want to keep. Okay. Now next, let's say if you have single quotation and double quotation both as your you can say as your string character. Like here you have and you have Java. Okay, so you will not be able to keep this string either into the single quotation or into the double quotation. Yes, single quotation is not allowed. If you try to keep it into the double quotation, that is also will not be allowed. Okay, this will give you the error. So instead of that, what you can do, you can keep this string into this triple quotation made up of single quotation or double quotation, anything. Now if you will execute it, so it will be considered as a character. These quotations will be considered as a character. Clear, everyone? Now, so this is one use of single quotation, double quotation, and triple quotation. There is another use of single quotation, double quotation, and triple quotation is that you can write multi-line string using triple quotation. Okay, you can write multi-line string using the triple quotation, which you cannot do with the single quotation. For example, you have E, this is Python class. If you are trying to write this multi-line string with single quotation, it is not allowing you to go into the multiple line. If you want to do that, then you have to escape it. You have to use the escape sequence. Okay, fine. Let's see, if you have multiple lines, 100 lines, 1000 lines, then maintaining this escape sequence will be a uphill task. So instead of doing that, what you can do, if you have the multi-line strings, then you can keep it into the triple quotation. Okay, now if you will be executing it, it will be printed as the multi-line string. Clear, everyone?
Can you please repeat that, Abhishek, the last thing, the single quote?
Multi-line string should be written into the triple quotation. Simple. If you have a string which is spanning into multiple lines, you have to use the triple quotation. Don't use the single quotation.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Abhishek, what's the shortcut of adding this hash which converts a line into a comment?
Select it, select the codes or select the lines which you want to comment, and then command / in Mac or control / in Windows. Control /.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everyone. So this is about the different literals. Now let's look at the identifier. Now what is an identifier? So identifier is any name given to the function, class, object, variable, constant. Okay, any name which you give to these values, right? So any name which you use for function, class, object, variable, or constant, that is called the identifier, right? Now identifier, simple identifier is what? It is a name. What all identifier we have seen as of now? Here E is an identifier, this E is an identifier, this E is an identifier, F, G is an identifier. Then you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, everything is an identifier. This import is a keyword. This sys is the name. This is also a name of the module. This print is a function. Get size of is the name of the function. Type is the name of the function. Print is the name of the function. Right? These all are the identifiers. Right? So there are few built-in identifiers which will be used for some internal purposes. There are user-defined identifiers, like when you want to define your function, your class, your object, variable, and constant, then you can use that. Okay. So for example, a variable identifier is something like, you can use, let's say you may write num is equal to 100. Here it is a variable identifier. If you will write num is equal to 100 or 1000, this is a constant identifier. You may define a function def f1. Here f1 is a identifier. Next we have class my first class is an identifier. My first class is an identifier. Similarly, you can create one object is equal to my first class of this class you are creating the object. So this object is an identifier. Okay, so these are the different types of identifier which you can use in a Python program or which you use in a Python program. The thing which we are going to learn here is, can we use any name here? You are able to see here I have used a specific things here, like here for variables I'm using small case letter, for constant I'm using all capital case, for function I'm starting with small case, for class I'm starting with the capital case, I'm using the camel case notation. So is it like anything I can use here? I have used the number. Can't you use the number here? Can't we use the number in the beginning? Can we use the special characters? That those all things we have to look at. Okay, so let's look at the rules of defining the identifier. So the rule says that the allowed characters are capital A to capital Z, A to Z, and 0 to 9. These all are the allowed characters. Not allowed characters are.
Abhishek, sorry to interrupt. During the special classes, you said the underscore is also one of the allowed characters if it is used in between.
Okay, so not allowed characters are special characters. Next, numbers should not be, or identifier should not start with a number, right? So identifier should not start with a number. Okay, fine. Yes, tell me, any question? Any question, guys?
Abhishek,
Yes.
Python is case sensitive?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so if you are writing small num is equal to 100 and capital num is equal to 1000, these all are two different identifiers. Okay, yes, next, any question? Okay, now identifiers should not start with a number. So for example, you may have num1 f1, but you cannot have one f. Okay, you cannot have one num. Okay, it should not start with a number. Okay, now identifiers are case sensitive. And next, identifiers or variables should use only small case letters. Okay, and constants should use only capital case letters. Okay, whereas class names should be written in camel case notation. Remember that. Okay, fine. Reserved words should not be used as an identifier. Okay, reserved words should not be used as an identifier. Okay, now yeah, so identifiers which are starting with single underscore, those all are private identifiers, not accessible outside the module. Okay, identifiers starting with double underscore are strongly private identifiers and not accessible outside the class. Okay, identifier starting with double underscore and ending with double underscore is language specific identifier. Okay, they are the language specific identifier. Clear? So they are used for some internal purposes. For example, name double underscore, or you can say double underscore iter double underscore abc double underscore. Okay, they are used for some internal purposes. So generally it is recommended to avoid writing any identifier which starts and ends with double underscore. Okay, you should avoid it. Simple. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it would be better if you will avoid it. Okay, fine. So these all are the different rules of identifiers we have. Now, what this rule says. So first of all, allowed characters. So any identifier can have capital A to capital Z. It is allowed. Small a to small z. It is allowed. 0 to 9 is allowed, and underscore is also allowed. Okay. It is not allowed. Characters are special characters like dollar and hash symbol and percentile symbol, and all those things are not allowed into the identifier name. Identifier should not start with a number, as I said. So you can have num1 is equal to 100, but you cannot have one num is equal to 100. Okay. So if you will have a number in the beginning, then it will be giving you the error. Okay. It will always give you the error. Now, next we have identifiers are case sensitive. So if you are writing, let's say num is equal to 100 and num is equal to 1000. So these both are different identifiers. If you will print num, it will give you 100, and if you will print this capital num, that will give you 1000. Okay, so these two are different identifiers. Now next, what we have, a variable should use only small case letters. So as I have said, so this is the recommendation that when you are defining the variables in Python, they should use the small case letter, whereas constant, while defining the constant, we don't have any keyword in the Python to define any data type, right? So we don't have any keyword to define the constant also. So it is just recommended that if you are defining any constant, then you have to keep the identifier name, or you have to keep the name in the capital letter. Okay. Now, so does it mean that the user will not be able to change the value associated with the constant? No. User will always be able to change the value associated with the constant, but if it is a good user, or if he or she is a good user or knows something about the Python programming, he or she would not dare to change the value associated with the constant. We will understand that it is a constant and we don't have to change it. Okay. So you have to learn this programming practice, which makes you a good Python programmer. Clear,
Abhishek, how about the file names?
File names can be anything. So it should be, again, we should follow the same rule. Okay, you should not use the special character, you should not use the numbers in the beginning and all. Okay, fine.
Yeah, okay.
Abhishek, how about like now you said everything in capital should be a constant, correct? So
yes.
What if they mix the capital letters along with small letters for an identity?
Then they are not a good programmer.
Okay, but what happens if they do that?
Nothing. It won't happen anything. Like, it's not going to give you the error. It is just the recommendation.
Yeah, no, my question is, suppose the first letter is a capital letter and the next two are the small letters. Then by default, will it take it as a constant?
No, that will be the variable. Still, that will be, because
only a variable.
Actually, I should not write this one. This point should not be written. This point should not be written. Instead of that, this constant is fine. Variable can be anything. Okay, means variable can be small case letter and can start with the capital letter, but variable will not have all the letters as capital letter. Okay.
Okay, got it. So only for constants, we need to use everything in caps, which by default Python identifies as a constant. Like
Python, there is no identification for the Python. Python will not identify it as a constant. It is for us, for the developers, for the coders.
Okay. Now I'm just correlating this with the VBA knowledge that I have, where we actually define the variable as a constant, like const and then we define.
We have that keyword in C also, in Java also. We have these keywords to define any constant value, and once it is defined as a constant, you cannot change the value associated with it, which is not the case in the Python. You can always change the value, Python is not going to consider it as it will still consider it as a variable. You will be able to change it. For example, let's say here, if you are writing num is equal to 100, okay, and if you will print num, it is 100, okay. Now in the next line, you can write this num is equal to 1000, and now if you will print num, then it will be 1000 now. So you can always be able to change the value associated with the constant, but constant means to say if you will check the type of num here, let's say if you will check the type of num, so it will give you it is an integer type. Okay, it is an integer type.
Okay.
Right? So when it is saying it in integer type, it means there is no concept of constant at all in Python. Actually, it is just a recommendation that if you are using any constant value for the other, for the sake of understanding for the other programmer, you have to keep it in the capital letter.
Abhishek, why it did not show, sorry, just small question, why it did not show class int this time?
Let's see it, why it is not showing. It is showing now. Okay. If you will not use print function, it will show only int. If you will use print function, it will show you in this format. You can check the upper one also, here also. Okay.
So, so Abhishek, what is basically used to define a constant? Like you got the relation of my question, right? So in the other programming languages, we use con, I mean const, and then we define a variable to be a constant value. So how do we do that in Python? I mean, how do we define that in Python?
Okay, understand this way. Let's say you have a value which is 3.14.
Yes.
Okay, that is a constant value which is equal to pi. Okay, fine. Now, if you are writing pi, you want to use it somewhere. Clear? You want to use this pi value somewhere. For example, pi r square. So you will be writing pi into r, right? Now you know that this pi is a constant. Clear? You know that this pi is a constant value. So if other programmer is coming, he should not change this pi value. So what you will do, you will change it as capital letters. So when other programmer will come, he will see that this pi is a constant value and he will not change the value associated with it. But the value associated with it, with this r, he will be able to change. He can make 12, 13, 14, anything. So we are like, we are not declaring it as a constant, but yes, for other programmers, we are making this task easier, so that if he comes and looks at our program, he will be able to understand that which one is constant, which one is variable, which value has to be changed, which value has not to be changed. Okay.
Okay, and these were the risks that you're talking about, right? Where if they do not know the concept of following a standard language, that's where they can go ahead and make the changes and then spoil the whole fun. Okay, got it. Thank you, Abhishek.
Okay, fine, everyone. Any other question? Okay.
Abhishek.
Yes.
You had mentioned in line 22 and 23 private and strongly private.
Yes.
So what does it mean? Is there any public or private concept here?
See, we don't have the access modifiers in Python, but yes, we can put some restrictions on the identifiers where we can access it or where we cannot. So for that, we can make something private or strongly private. And when you make something private, it means it is not accessible outside the module. Means this is a module. Outside this module, this identifier will not be accessible. And if you will make something strongly private, you will not be able to access it outside the class. When I'm saying it is not accessible, they are actually accessible, but with a special case. Okay, so we'll be learning that into the object-oriented programming. That is not the part now. We'll be discussing that later. Okay. Yes, but as of now, if you want to make something private or strongly private, so you have to just do that one thing, that keep a single underscore in the beginning or double underscore in the beginning. Now, when we will go to object-oriented programming, there I will show you that how it is accessible, where it is accessible, not accessible, why not accessible, all those things we will discuss there. Okay. Now, next we have the class name should be written in the camel case notation. You can see here, this is camel case notation. We are the first letter of every word should be capital letter. That is again the recommendation. If you are not doing that, it doesn't mean that it will give you the error. Remember that in Python, everything is a recommendation. There is nothing like forced one. You have to do that. It is just the recommendation. Use it or not. Yes.
Isn't it Pascal case notation? Camel means it should start with lowercase.
No, that is camel case notation. We say, I don't know, camel case notation. You can look at here. What is the camel case notation? Camel case notation. So first letter of every word should be capital. Okay.
No, for the first word we give it as small. From second word onwards, we'll give it as caps for every first letter.
Is it? So what is this called?
If you can see that camel case styled as camel case, which is
Here
highlighted.
also we have this, right? We have camels with two bumps, right? Anyway, so what this is called, I don't know. Anyway, so you have to use this format. What is that? Pascal.
Pascal.
Okay, so tell me, can you please spell it out?
PASCAL.
Pascal case notation. Is it?
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
So this notation you have to use. Okay. Fine. Next, we have the reserved words should not be used as an identifier. So, for example, what are reserved words we have? So, to get the list of all the reserved words in the Python, we can use import keywords, and then we can write keyword dot kw list. Now, you should not use this anything out of this list as a keyword or as the identifier. Okay, anything inside from this list should not be used as an identifier. Okay, for example, you should not write and is equal to 10 or true is equal to 100. That will give you the error. Why? Because this is a reserved word and they are used for some internal purposes. Okay, you cannot write it like that. So all these reserved words should be avoided to be used as an identifier. Okay, next we have this last one, double underscore ABC double underscore. It says that it is a language specific identifier, and there are number of identifiers which starts with double underscore and end with double underscore, for example, and they are used for some internal purposes. For example, let's say if you will write double underscore name double underscore, it always supposed to give you the main. Okay, why? Because currently you are executing this module as the main module, so it will be giving you the main. Now when you will import this module somewhere else in some other module, then it will be giving the name of this module there. Okay, why? Because you are importing this module in the other module. So basically this name is an attribute. Not only this, there is a double underscore iter function which gives you the iterable object, iterator object. Next we have double underscore add double underscore function, which is being called when you add two numbers or concatenate it. Let's say this double underscore mul double underscore function will be called whenever you multiply two numbers. So there are n number of functions. These all are called the dunder method or the you can say magic method. Okay, they are called the dunder method or the magic method, and they are used for some special purposes in these special cases. So if you will use these names as your identifier, then probably you are changing the internal properties of those dunder method or the magic method, which you should avoid as the programmer. Why? Because if you will change it, then for whatever purpose they are defined, we will not be able to get that. For example, double underscore name double underscore is equal to 100 if you will write, and then if you will print double underscore name double underscore, so it will not give you main now. It is now going to give you 100. Why? Because now it is set to 100. So it is not giving you the internal properties. Okay, fine. So let's say if you write double underscore add is equal double underscore add is equal to double underscore add double underscore is equal to some value, or call this add or plus operator between two numbers, then probably it will not be able to add those two numbers. Okay, so these things should be avoided. That's why we have said that you should avoid writing any name which starts and ends with the double underscore. Simple. Okay, fine everyone.
Yes.
Any question?
Yeah.
Any question, guys? Anyone else?
No, Abhishek.
Okay, so now let's see we have seen variable constant. Okay, let's see the expression. Now what is an expression? So expression is combination of operators, operands, variables, constants which are executable. Okay, so anything which is executable basically is an expression. For example, let's say if you are writing 10, it is the simplest expression, and if you will run this particular cell, it will be executed and it will give you the output. Similarly, if you are writing, let's say 10.20, this is also an expression, simplest expression with a single value. This is going to execute and give you the result. If you will write a string value, then this is also going to execute and it will give you the output. Okay, so these all things are the simplest expression we have. Now apart from this, let's say one expression, you have 10 plus 20. Now if you will execute it, it will give you the result 30. So it is executing this expression also. Fine. Not only this, you may have the combination of variables and the operands and operator. For example, you may write print a plus 100. This will give you the result 110. So this is also executing. So any combination of operator, operand, variable, constant, anything which is executing or executable is called the expression. And on the same line, we have these statements. So statements may not be executable. Okay, combination of same operators, or you can say combination of expressions, variables, functions, call, which are not executable. Okay, that is called the statement. Okay, executable means it doesn't print the value. For example, let's say if you do the function call, okay, you have defined a function. For example, this assignment operation is equal to 10, correct? This is not going to give you the output. Fine. Similarly, you may write the if statement if a less than 100, and you may write here print a. So it will be executing this code, but it is not going to print anything. So this is also if statement. Okay, fine. Similarly, you may write the for loop, or you may define a function. These all are the group of statements. Okay. Now, what is the blocks in Python? Blocks. So blocks in Python are made up of statements. They are made up of statements. Okay, blocks are made up of statements. Fine. For example, let's say you have a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, c is equal to 30, and if you have if a less than b, print a minus b. If a less than c, print a minus c. Okay, let's make it 100. Now if you will be executing this code, so it will give you some output. Now if you will see it here, let's say 1 minute. So if you are going to execute this code, a is less than b, a is less than c, a minus b, and a minus c. Sorry, a is greater than b, a is greater than c. Execute this. Okay, so now if you see, so this is a block. This code is making a block. How do you make the block in Python? So group of statement makes the block. And how do you make the group of statement? So whenever you want to make a block in other programming languages, you have the concept of this middle bracket. You will keep these group of lines or group of statement inside this middle bracket. It will create one block. Whereas in Python, we use the indentation. This indentation will be at the same level. So all the codes which are placed at the same indentation level. Now you cannot write it like this. So though these both lines are in the same if level, so you cannot keep them at the different indentation level. If you run this, it will give you the error. Yes, so you can keep them at the same indentation level. This is fine. You are providing the extra spaces, that is fine, but you cannot keep these two lines at the different indentation level. They should follow the indentation properly. Okay, now if you'll execute, this is also fine. Okay, you are providing extra spaces here. So you may always provide the extra spaces at wherever the indentation is required, but the code which are coming at the same block level, they should be provided the same indentation level. Clear? Fine, everyone? Any question?
No.
One question, Abhishek.
Sorry. Yes, any question?
Abhishek, what I was asking
Anyway,
is
so
like
this is
sometimes you're using print and sometimes you're not using, like for printing A, you sometimes just type A and the output comes, like line number 13.
See, let's say when I'm just want to print the recent value. Okay, so here I want to print just 10 and I have only one line. So I'll be executing it, it will give me 10. Okay, but let's say here if I'll write 20, then it will not give me 10. It will give me the recent or the last value. It will give me only 20. Let's say here if I'll write Python, so it will not give me 10 and 20. It will give me only Python. So if you will not use print function, then it will be always giving you the recent value in the output scheme. But if you use the print function everywhere, then it will be giving you the output everywhere. Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
And
so when
in this line number 13, can you go scroll up little? Okay, yeah. If I'm not giving this print and I'm writing just A, then it is not printing A.
Yes, it will not print. Why? Because when you write the script or when you write the block of code, in that if you want to print something, you have to use the print function. Okay.
Okay.
So it is better to write the print function. Okay. Keep a habit of writing the print function.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So this is the blocks and indentation. Next, we have the comments in Python. So comments in Python are
Abhishek, I'm sorry. So I do remember you talking about the nested ifs as well, correct? So basically, like if I want to use another function along with if, so again, in reference to the VBA that I have, basically I end if and then I can do a do while or do until loop or the for next loop. So how do we do that in this? Like how does it consider a specific set of statements as a block? Did you get my question?
No.
So now only for if statements, if for example here what you have given, right? So in VBA basically we give an end if, that's where the if function is grouped together and a result is given. So if I want to use, for example, a for next or a do while with if,
there is no do while in Python. There is a for and there is a while. Okay. So let's say if you want to, with which if you want to use for, this if or this if?
For the first one.
First one. So if you want to use the for the first one, so you will be bringing this cursor at this indentation level. Okay. Why? Because the code at this indentation level are coming inside this if. The code at this indentation level will be coming inside this if.
Okay, so it's only to do with the indentations.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Now you can write the for loop here for I in. Let's say you may write Python and you may write print I. Okay. Now again here also you are making the loop and this is one block you are making here. So you have written this block inside for loop. So see, first of all, how it will be executed, it will check this condition, it will print this, then it will check this condition. If it is true, it will print this. And after this code is executed, now it will come outside of this if condition, it will execute this for. This for it will check I in Python, it will pick P, it will print P. Go back, I will become Y, it will print Y. Go back, I will become T, it will print T, and so on. Okay. Now let's say if this condition is false, then what will happen? It will execute this. This condition is false. It will not execute this. It will come to the for loop.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Thanks so much.
Anything else, guys? Any other question? So now we have the comments. So comments in Python can be used for two purposes. One, if you don't want to execute a set of code, okay, or if you want to skip the execution for a set of code or block of code, then you can comment them. For example, if I don't want to execute this set of code, I can select it and I can comment it. Okay. Or the other way is to write the documentation. So documentation part I'll be coming later, but as of now we'll be looking at like documentation means what. So let's say if you are writing any code, your code should be properly documented. Okay. So here you are writing the document, like what you are doing here, what is the expression. So anything which you are writing, keep a habit of writing the properly documented code. Why we are taking the variable, what you will be doing, if you are writing any formula, what that formula is going to calculate and all. So everything should be written properly, so that if any other person is looking at your code, he should be able to understand your code. And that is really a good habit to have, of writing the comments. We as a programmer, when we are learning, we generally don't prefer to write the comment. Why? Because it takes time to write the comment or properly commented code. We try to avoid it because we want to learn so many things. Okay, but it is a really good practice to write the comment. If you keep a habit of it, then that will help you a lot in the upcoming days. Okay. Now next thing in the comments. So let's say if you want to comment multiple lines in the Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook comes with a built-in feature that whichever line you want to comment, you just select those lines, and after selecting it, you just press Command / or Control / and it will comment all those lines. So this is the built-in feature of the Jupyter Notebook, which works well with the PyCharm and the Atom Editor also. Instead of that, if you want to comment a single line, then you can put a single hash in the beginning of that line. That line will be commented. If you have multiple lines, just select it and use Command / or if you want to comment it manually, you can go in the beginning and put a single hash in the beginning of the every line. Those all things will be commented. Now comment means what? So those lines will not be executed. Means these lines will have no meaning for the Python code. They are not going to be executed at all. Okay, so now if you will print A, it will give you the value associated with print A, but if you try to print C, it will give you the it will not give you anything. It is basically taking the previous value why it was defined, but it is not executing. Okay, so it is not executed. Let's say if you will execute, if you will restart it and then run this again, now it will be giving you the error. Okay, what happened? Okay, so for A you are getting 100, for C it is not defined. Fine, clear everyone?
Yes.
Any question, guys?
No, Abhishek.
Okay, so we are done for today.